The Maine Business Show is proudly presented by Poland Spring.
At Poland Spring, we've called Maine home since 1845 and are proud to be part of the community. Over the past 2 decades, investing more than $12 million in the place that we call home. Poland Spring, 100% natural spring water.
This week on the Maine Business Show, why do people love anything made in Maine? We'll ask Lisa Marie Stewart, owner of Lisa Marie's Made in Maine. How are music and neurotherapeutics helping people with their mobility? Owners of the new startup MedRhythms will tell us. All coming up next on the Maine Business Show. Welcome to the Maine Business Show. I'm your host, Quincy Hentzel. This week, we're continuing our visit with a third-generation family business based in Portland, Mughalian Rugs. And we're joined today by Brett Mughalian, the grandson of the founder, Robert Mughalian. Brett, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being here.
So it must be incredibly gratifying to come to work every day in this fabulous location filled with all these works of art in the forms of rugs.
It's a fun place to work. There's a lot of color, a lot of design, always new things coming in and out of the store, which is always fun. Yeah, it's a revolving door. It's pretty neat.
So I take it you're also helping your customers pick rugs for their spaces.
Absolutely.
So what's the process look like for that?
The biggest thing we help with is size, because that's where a lot of people kind of fumble a little bit. So it's size, where the rug is being used. You know, I don't want to sell a high-end wool and silk rug if you're putting it in an entryway or in a kitchen or, you know, something of that sort. So kind of qualifying the customer on what they're going to use the rug for, how much traffic it gets, do they have kids, all that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, size is really the big thing.
Do you offer other services to your customers besides just selling a rug? Like, do you help with repairs if needed down the line?
We do. So we do all of our own hand repairs. We also do all of our own rug cleaning. So we have a facility right here in East Bayside where we do all of our own rug cleaning as well.
Clearly full service. So Brett, thank you again for hosting us today. It is always wonderful to be in your beautiful space here at Mughalian Rugs.
Thank you very much.
99% of businesses in Maine are small businesses. They are truly the backbone of the Maine economy. And one such Maine business is all about, well, Maine. Lisa Marie's Made in Maine is a family business begun by Lisa Marie Stewart, formerly in 2003 in Bath. But Lisa, you've been involved in promoting Maine goods well before 2003, correct?
Correct, yes. I started in 1990 and just out of my home and doing shows with a lot of the artisans and craftsmen, and also in co-op shops, and progressively just kept increasing that. And then 2003, my husband said it was time to open up our own store, which I wasn't heading that direction at the time, but I thought I will, and I called a few of my friends I was doing shows with to start off, and they all joined in, and I had no idea that it would evolve to where it's at this point. But we're in the process of celebrating our 20th opening year at the Bath location, and we've been in our Portland location 13 years.
Wow. So why do you find it so important to promote Maine goods?
There's a lot of Maine quality work out there, a lot of artisans that are trying to find places and venues to promote and sell their wares, and they always ask for advice and stuff, good places to sell. And there's a difference in quality what customers like, and you can tell when the customers come in that they want something that is truly made in Maine, and it's very nice that we can talk about the artisans itself, the maker behind the piece.
What do you think it is about the Maine brand that people love, and why is it that people want to buy products made in Maine and products that evoke Maine?
Back in the 90s, when I was selling actually at a store here in Portland on consignment, I started selling with him, and before I became a Maine Made member. And I became a member of the Maine Made program back in '93 and started using the logo stickers. My sales quadrupled after that because people realized that they were truly buying something made here in the state of Maine and not something that had a gold label that said made in China. And it's what people were looking for, and I realized I was onto something at that point. and continued going that direction.
Maine is blessed to have so many incredibly talented artisans and craftsmen. What do you think it means to these individuals to have the ability to sell their goods in your retail establishments?
I reviewed a lot of them when they come in, and they are honored and very pleased when I select their work. They know that we're going to support them on a year-round basis. We're open 7 days a week, and we make sure that they get their checks every month. It's very important to the customers to know that it's truly a person behind the piece and who they're about and what they do. You know, like what I've got on now is she's a lobster woman. And so when we tell the story of a piece like that, it intrigues the customer and it helps the artisans also with their, you know, us selling and keeping their product moving, you know, established for them.
Well, you have limited retail space, so obviously just a limited amount of space to showcase individuals' work. It must be a pretty challenging process to decide who do you showcase and who you're not able to showcase. What does that look like?
Some things just don't work, and I'm not the right venue or location for their product. So if quality is not that great, then I tell them where they need to improve and where they need to do to help market it better. Or when I take a lot of the products, it's because that I see potential in their work. And it's just wonderful supporting all of those little businesses. It's not just our family business that we're doing, but we're supporting over 400 other small businesses that has accumulated in the years of the 20 years that I started. I started with 25 to 50, and now it's more, but they are honored, and some of them just have been with me since day one still, because they keep improving their work and adding to their collection.
That's such an amazing attribute of Lisa Marie's Made in Maine, is that it's not just your own retail establishment, but you are supporting hundreds of other small businesses across the state. And as we all know, small businesses are the backbone of our economy.
It is, and when we tell our customers, you know, when they're buying products, I'll say, you know what, and I start counting. I said, you've got 5 family members you just supported here, and the checks all stay in the state. My husband does all the checks every month, so you're supporting everybody that you purchase from in this store, not just our own family business.
Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for all that you do, not just, again, for running your own retail establishment, but supporting all of those small businesses across the state. I do hope you will come back and see us again soon.
I'd love to. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still ahead, a fascinating look at next-generation neurotherapeutics designed to improve walking and mobility, being put to work right here in Maine at a place called MedRhythms. Welcome back to the Maine Business Show. Music has been demonstrated to activate the human brain to an extent unlike any other stimulus on Earth. Research shows that music has the ability to activate areas of the brain that are responsible for movement, language, attention, memory, executive function, and emotion. MedRhythms is a new company based in Portland that's using music and neuroscience to help with human mobility.
I'm Brian Harris, the co-founder and CEO of MedRhythms, and we're a company that's focused at the intersection of music, technology, and neuroscience, where we're building a platform technology focused on the neuroscience of music to address walking deficits in those who have had neurologic disease and injury. We've known for years, centuries, that music is medicine, and actually in early days, we know even in ancient times, that music was medicine. But now through advancements of neuroscience and neuroimaging technology, we've really been able to bring an objective science to understanding how music profoundly impacts the brain. And based upon this research, really it applies to 97% of the human population. And really it comes down to 2 primary principles that we've found. Number 1 is what we call the principle of global activation. So it's actually been shown that when we as humans passively listen to music that we like in our environment, it activates the parts of our brain that are responsible for movement, for language, attention, memory, emotion, executive function, and there's no other stimulus on earth that engages our brain like music does. Rhythmic auditory stimulation is a clinical intervention based upon the neuroscience of how rhythm can activate the part of the brain that's responsible for movement. What the research shows is that when the human brain hears a consistent and auditory rhythmic cue, like the rhythm of music, that it activates the parts of your brain that we call the auditory system that allows us to hear because it's an auditory cue. But it's been shown that the auditory system and the motor system, the part of your brain that's responsible for movement, are very richly connected, such that we can use an external rhythmic cue to engage the motor system. what happens is that the auditory system and that motor system begin to fire in synchrony with that external rhythmic cue. That's something in science that we call auditory motor entrainment. It's the reason why when we listen to music that has a strong beat to it, that we want to tap our fingers or tap our feet or move our body. That's actually not an emotional reaction to the music that you're having. That's the rhythm literally telling your motor system, telling your brain to move your body. Auditory motor entrainment for those who have deficits to the motor system, stroke, Parkinson's disease, MS, we can use that external rhythm to engage that motor system to help improve the way that they walk. We were really excited to bring MedRhythms to Maine for a couple of reasons. One, we love the state of Maine. We love the people of Maine. Owen, the co-founder, and myself are both from northern Maine, and we were excited to be able to do something to help promote Maine's economy. But what really was exciting for us at the time as well is the movement that was happening here in the economy for startups, but more specifically than just for startups, also in the life science space and the health technology space that's really burgeoning here in the city of Portland. And now we're seeing this ecosystem being built here in Portland, Maine, that's really exciting, and we're honored to be a part of that.
Artists always find inspiration in the Maine mountains and on the coast, but can they earn a living with their painting, sculpture, or photography? Elizabeth Moss has operated Elizabeth Moss Galleries in Falmouth for nearly 2 decades, and she joins us today to talk about those who've turned inspiration into a vocation. So why has Maine been such a magnet for visual artists for hundreds of years?
Maine has been an incredible place for artists to come because of its beauty, the sunlight, the colors of the ocean, the coastline, the drama of the mountains and the lakes. And not only is it physically beautiful, but the people that have been here when the artists have come to visit have been welcomed with open arms. And this is an incredibly unique situation. Artists from New York for 100 years have been coming to little enclaves like Ogunquit, Monhegan Island, Mount Desert Island, Cranberry Island. These are all different locations that have drawn different sets of artists over the years. And in those communities, they've been welcomed summer after summer by everyone that's there. And it's been a really fascinating combination of idea exchange, a love of the physical world, and a creativity of beauty.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing a little bit about yourself and your gallery here on the Maine Business Show.
My pleasure. Thank you, Quincy.
Hi, I'm Andrew Silsby, President and CEO of Kennebec Savings Bank, and I love fly fishing. But when the lake freezes over, it is all about ice fishing here in Maine, and ice fishing is a huge economic driver. So we're here in Monmouth, Maine at Jack Traps to meet the owner, Sean Norton. Let's go.
Grew up ice fishing, always loved to ice fish, so there was an opportunity to work here, and that's where I ended up. Worked for Jack for about 10 years. He'd been doing this since 1979. Used to be out of his basement just down the road here. He moved into this building probably early 2000s and bought it from him in 2019. Jack couldn't find a trap that worked good, so he decided he'd make something that would last, and he came up with the Jack trap. We've slightly improved on it over time, but it's not a lot different than what he came up with then. So he just kind of perfected the trap through fishing experience. The traps are built to be abused, but we build them so good they can take it. When we build the traps, all the wood comes in as kiln-dried, premium-grade ash. Then we pre-drill every hole, and we get stained, and then it gets double-coated in heavy marine-grade poly. And then we build every trap by hand and test them, make sure they work before they head out. Everything's packed with lithium grease, so they're not gonna freeze. It's all stainless steel and aluminum, so we put the best materials in we can, and we use them ourselves, so we know what they're supposed to be doing. So,
Those are beautiful.
yeah, these here are the 26 standard with the big 4-inch reel.
That's awesome.
And the big thing with the bigger reel is like a gear ratio. So the bigger the reel, it takes less force, you know, when the fish is pulling to get more line, so they can run a little easier.
So show our viewers how that gets set up.
So here, pop that out, flag goes up, set that on your hook. And then here, you're gonna run that line out with a bait on the end, and as the fish takes it, flag! Flag! The fact that we get to employ Mainers making a product right here, you don't see a lot of that anymore. And we try to source as much stuff as we can. You know, all our metal components, they all come from a Maine company. A lot of the stuff you see, the pack baskets, the reel wraps, our flags, all that stuff is made by people here in Maine. So if we can't find it in Maine, we try to find it made in the United States. And if we don't have it made in the United States, it's because nobody's making it here.
Sean, thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it. For all your ice fishing gear, come to Jack Traps.
We'll see you in December.
Time once again to turn back the clock on Maine business with help from the Maine Historical Society and the Maine Memory Network. This week, we look at a product and a practice that was once a major industry in Maine winters: ice harvesting. In some years, more than 1.5 million tons of ice were cut, stored, and shipped from Maine rivers and lakes. Commercial ice harvesting began in Maine in 1826. By 1881, there were nearly 50 ice houses on the banks of the Kennebec River alone, running from Augusta south to Woolwich. These ice houses produced anywhere from 5,000 to 80,000 tons of ice each. From roughly 1870 to 1890, Maine was the leader in the ice industry, seasonally employing some 25,000 men. Maine's deep, clear lakes and rivers set the standard for clear, pure ice. Because much of the ice was harvested close to sea lanes, shipping the ice was relatively easy and kept transportation costs in check. As Americans began to eat more fresh foods, including dairy and vegetables, ice was needed for ice boxes in more and more homes. Commercial ice harvesting continued in Maine well into the 20th century, but with the advent of refrigerators, by the late 1920s, ice harvesting became more and more localized. You still can experience ice harvesting in Maine. Many local farms and sporting camps harvest ice, and you can visit the Thompson Ice House Harvesting Museum in South Bristol, Maine. Each week, we're joined by a recognized business leader from Maine, and today we're very excited to welcome to the show Joan Fortin, CEO of the Portland-based law firm Bernstein Shur. Joan, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here, Quincy.
So Joan, you started at Bernstein in 1994 as a summer associate. Since then, you've been a board member. I know you've held many roles within the firm. You're now CEO. I am curious if you could share with us a little bit about what are some of the significant changes you have seen within the law profession over the last several years.
If I think about the legal changes I've seen, I really put them in three big buckets that I've witnessed pretty substantial changes. One is in our employees and what our employees are looking for and how their desires are driving our business decisions. Clients and what clients are looking for. I've seen some changes there. And then also our business operations are really quite different.
In keeping on the topic of changes, in your short tenure as CEO, you've had to manage COVID, hybrid workforces, generative AI. How are you managing these disruptions within the workforce?
I think the way that I have managed is really my leadership style is a very authentic and compassionate leadership style. And I think that's really been key for me and how I've managed, particularly during COVID, because it was such a scary time for everyone. I just responded by communicating a lot. And I really just spoke from my heart and talked about how to take care of people, whether those people were our people or clients or people in the community. And I think that really resonated with people and brought them together.
So you and I have had the opportunity to work together on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts within the workplace. Why, as a business leader, is that an important topic for you?
It just, to me, has always felt like the right thing to do, and I'm passionate about businesses engaging in the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I would add belonging. And as a business leader, there's a business imperative. Our clients want their lawyers to reflect their businesses, and we are operating in a global and diverse world.
So the legal profession is facing the same talent acquisition and retention challenges as every other profession post-COVID. What are you doing to focus on retaining your employees?
We are trying to make sure that we have flexibility, that we have family-friendly policies. Pay is a big issue, and we're constantly trying to make sure that we're at the top of the market for our market. And communication and giving people opportunities to grow in their career and in leadership.
Joan, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your leadership, and I hope you'll join us again on the Maine Business Show.
Thank you so much. It's been really fun being with you.
When we return, a nonprofit that's making a difference in Maine.
Water connects us all. As a company that relies on nature, we take responsibility to help conserve it. Our team of experts sustainably source water from carefully selected springs, monitored and managed to help support Maine's future, continuing the legacy of one of Maine's oldest brands for this generation and those to come. Poland Spring, 100% natural spring water.
Hi everyone, we're here in Augusta, Maine at the Children's Center, a not-for-profit organization that we have supported for a lot of years. They've added a big addition to their building to be able to increase their capacity, and we'd like to be able to share their mission with you. So let's meet the Executive Director of the Children's Center.
The Children's Center has been around about 60 years, and it's focused on providing evidence-based treatment interventions to kids that have disabilities. Things like autism, global delays, chromosomal disorders, Down syndrome, basically anything that creates some type of communication, behavioral disorder, we provide evidence-based treatment and supports for those kids. Our waiting lists have always been longer than the number of kids that we provide services to. But with our new expansion, we're going from 11,000 square feet to 25,000 square feet. So we'll more than double our capacity. Plus, we're going to quadruple our capacity for doing remote telehealth work, which, you know, in a rural state like Maine is invaluable for people who don't have access, which is most of the state of Maine. We help bring in more kids, which is what we've been all about the last 3 years or so.
What excites me most about the work that I do is teaching children to communicate and teaching children to follow directions and be a part of a group and enjoy being with others and playing with toys and finding what motivates them to do that. It's a new challenge every single day, and we've had a lot of really great success stories and children that have started in a program like this, which is small and a little more intensive, then they can move on to our inclusive classroom and be in a big group of children and find success there and then go to kindergarten.
So we're walking into the new expansion, 14,000 square feet of new space for kids that are on a waiting list. That's awesome. So let me show you this inclusive classroom and what goes on in here. Hi guys. So this is one of our inclusive classrooms. We call it inclusive because it is inclusive of all kids, no matter what they have going on. But it's not easy to get in this classroom and be in this environment because there's certain social skills. You have to have the ability to communicate words, ideas, thoughts. You have to have behaviors that are largely acceptable to your other little friends. And all of those are skills that get built. They don't just happen for every child.
Yeah, this is great. What a great classroom.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew, for stopping by, and thanks for all your support.
Absolutely.
And the bank's support. We appreciate it a lot. And thank you for your interest in the Children's Center. We appreciate the community support, and we also provide services to folks in the community who have questions about their kids with disabilities, where to get resources, what might work for them in their community. You can always call the Children's Center. We'll help you in any way we can. Thanks.
That's it for this week's edition of the Maine Business Show. Our thanks once again to Mughalian Rugs for hosting us and to all of our guests. There's always something exciting to talk about in the world of Maine business, and we hope you'll join us again next week for more. I'm Quincy Hentzel. See you next time.